Hey guys and friends, welcome to another Crazy Faith Sunday. This week I was actually preparing a message for a service that they wanted to have in the campground that we're at. They wanted me to lead a service on Sunday, and as I was preparing that message, there was more for that message than I could put in the message, which is typical when you're studying a passage. And so I thought I would share some of that overflow here. The story that immediately came to mind when they asked me to prepare a lesson was a story from the Old Testament that is one of those just like little minor obscure stories that is just one of my favorites. And it's the story of Naaman, the healing of the leper Naaman. It's found in 2 Kings chapter 5. And it starts out and it says, Naaman, commander of the army of the king of Syria, was a great man with his master in high favor, because by him the Lord had given glory to Syria. He was a mighty man of valor, but he was a leper. Now the Syrians on one of their raids had carried off a little girl from the land of Israel, and she worked in the service of Naaman's wife. She said to her mistress, Would that my Lord were with the prophet who is in Samaria. He would cure him of his leprosy. So Naaman went and told his Lord, Thus and so spoke the little girl from the land of Israel. And the king of Syria said, Go now, and I will send a letter to the king of Israel. So he went, taking with him 10 talents of silver, 6,000 shekels of gold, and 10 changes of clothing. And he brought the letter to the king of Israel, which read, When this letter reaches you, know that I have sent to you Naaman, my servant, that you may cure him of his leprosy. And when the king of Israel read the letter, he tore his clothes and said, Am I God, to kill and to make alive, that this man sends word to me to cure a man of his leprosy? Only consider and see how he is seeking a quarrel with me. But Elisha, the man of God, heard that the king of Israel had torn his clothes. So he sent to the king, saying, Why have you torn your clothes? Let him come to me now, that he may know that there is a prophet in Israel. So Naaman came with his horses and his chariots, and he stood at the door of Elisha's house. And Elijah sent a messenger to him, saying, Go and wash in the Jordan 7 times, and your flesh shall be restored, and you shall be clean. But Naaman was angry, and he went away, saying, Behold, I thought that he would surely come out to me, and stand, and call upon the name of the Lord his God, and wave his hands over this place, and cure the leper. Are not the rivers in Damascus better than all the waters in Israel? Could I not wash in them and be clean? So he turned, and he went away in a rage. But his servant came near and said to him, My father, it is a great word the prophet has spoken to you. Will you not do it? Has he actually said to you, Wash and be clean? So he went down, and he dipped himself 7 times in the Jordan, according to the word of the man of God, and his flesh was restored like the flesh of a little child, and he was clean. I think the focus so often when we read this story, we hear about it, is on Naaman himself and his pride in not wanting to do what the prophet had asked him to do. I mean, here Elisha, this is a very high-ranking man, a very famous man in his government, a very famous soldier, and here, this man of God will not even go out of his house to him. It's like, no, I'm not even going to get off the couch. So he sent a word out through a messenger. Just go bathe in the river. Now, obviously, leprosy is not something that can be cured by washing. It was a terrible, terrible disease. There was no known cure for it in biblical times. And so this was really just a ridiculous request sent secondhand from this prophet. And so we often focus on Naaman's rage and pride that made him turn and walk away. But the person that I want to talk about that is really, to me, is kind of the hero in the story, and that is Naaman's servant. It's actually servants, it's plural, so it must have been several of his servants. When he stomped off in a rage, that they came to him and said, Look at what's going on. If he had come out and declared these many, many things for you to do, would you not have done them happily and been clean? And so now he has come and simply said to you, Go and wash. Will you not go and do that? I think that's a pretty bold move for a servant, especially of a mighty general whose job is to kill people as a soldier, to go up to him and say, Hey, boss, I think you're getting a little out of hand here. Let's think through what you're talking about. And so to me, they're the real hero of the story, because without them, Naaman would not have had his healing. So what I want us to think about today is the fact that we are all as believers, called to speak truth, because that's what the servants did. In the face of a lie, the lie that Naaman himself raged up, that this is unbelievable, I can't believe I'm going to do this, I'm going to walk away from this. In the middle of that lie, his servants came and they spoke truth. And that was risky for them. I mean, like I said, these were just servants. This wasn't like this was his wife or his king that were coming and telling this. These were just his servants. They were risking quite a bit by coming and calling out their master on his pride. And yet, because of that, because they were willing to speak truth, Naaman had a cleansing encounter with the Lord and actually came to faith in God through the encounter, if you keep reading on in the passage. So my challenge to you this week is to look for those places where you need to speak truth. And here's the truth of that. It's not always going to be easy. I think anytime that we speak truth, it's easier just to go along with the lie very often. It would have been very easy for his servants just to get back in their chariots and follow their master home, to not risk anything personally. Now, anytime we speak truth, and I'm talking about capital T truth, biblical truth, it's going to be risky. But we're going to risk relationships. We're going to be risking social status. But remember, in this story, there was no cleansing. There was no miracle until the truth was spoken. And that reality is just as true today. There's so many falsehoods and lies all around us that we believe and we walk in. And those lies are preventing so many from receiving the ultimate healing of sin, which is salvation, or restoration of their life, because they're believing that lie, because nobody's spoken that truth. So you have to ask yourself, who around you is not receiving their healing because you haven't spoken the truth? Who's still living in a lie, living in sin, separated because you haven't spoken that truth? You haven't taken that risk. It's not always easy. But the truth is the only thing that can bring restoration. From a biblical standpoint, all the earthly things that we endure, we know that they are for a short time. And that ultimate healing is only going to come in heaven from salvation, that ultimate healing of sin. And that can't happen without truth. So look around you this week and ask, who is it that I need to be bold enough to speak truth? Join me in prayer. Father God, we thank you that you have given us the truth, a truth that we can trust in, a truth that we can believe in, a truth that brings ultimate healing. And Father, this week I pray you help to give us eyes to see those that need that truth. God, we know that there are lies all around us. The devil tells us, that the world tells us, that we tell ourselves. And Father, it is only the truth of your word, spoken boldly, that can tear those down, that can bring healing, restoration, salvation. So Father God, give us eyes to see those lies around us and give us boldness to speak the truth into the lives of those that we love, even at great risk to ourselves. Father God, we ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen.